Hello and welcome to Beyond the News. I'm SHAH, your host for the evening. In today's edition of the program, we will be discussing Prime Minister Imran Khan meets Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. 18th Amendment should have been debated, says the Chief Justice of Pakistan. Pakistan hails Trump's desire for great ties between the two countries. OPEC oil output posts biggest drop since 2017. But first, our leading story tonight, the Prime Minister's visit to Turkey. Accompanied by his economic team, Prime Minister Imran Khan was on his first official visit to Turkey, where he held meetings with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Prime Minister Imran Khan also met with a delegation of the Turkish-Pakistan Business Council and the Foreign Economic Relations Board of Turkey. Consequently, while addressing these delegations, the Premier stated that during the 1970s, the country went in the wrong direction because of its socialist mindset, which became a hindrance to wealth creation in the country. The Prime Minister continued that although the socialist regime stepped down in the subsequent decades, the mindset still prevailed among the country's bureaucracy. He added that his PTI-led government has reversed the situation and therefore supports investments in the country. For this reason, he is taking measures to create money-making opportunities for new investors and business coming into the country. Furthermore, the Prime Minister assured the Turkish business community of an investor-friendly environment in Pakistan under his government, which would remove any impediments in their ways if they invest in the country. For this purpose, he stressed that a separate cell has already been established at the Prime Minister's Secretariat to monitor the entire process. Well, to further discuss the Prime Minister's trip to Turkey, we have with us Mustafa Birol Guga, independent journalist from Turkey. Firstly, a warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So tell us, how do you see Pakistan-Turkey ties moving under the stewardship of the new Prime Minister? Will we witness something significant in the two-day visit?
It is pretty much early to draw a future portrait of Turkey-Pakistan relations under the management of Imran Khan, but we can definitely state that there is a strong opportunity to bring both political and economic relations to a better degree. Actually, Pakistan's latest efforts to size the schools affiliated with Gülen's terrorist organization, which is abbreviated as FETÖ, is considered as an ultimate favor in Turkey. This is very, very significant in terms of the close cooperation between the two countries. So we can definitely say that this is a good start, but there's still too much way to go, especially in the field of mutual investment. This is what I can say.
Okay, do Turkish businesses have confidence in the Pakistani economy, in your opinion, which might make them invest in the country?
Actually, this was one of the main topics in Imran Khan's meeting with Turkish Trade Minister Rusar Pekcan in Turkish capital Ankara. Here in this meeting, Turkish minister said that the current trade volume between these two sister nations is unfortunately insufficient, and Turkey, on its share, making a huge effort to increase it. So, Turkish minister stated in her speech that also Turkish companies provide employment opportunity for about 6,500 people in Pakistan, with a total of 62 full-scale projects. And also there was another striking comment that President of the Turkish Union of Chambers, Rıfat Sarcıklıoğlu, also confirmed Turkish Minister Pekcan, and he said, while Turkey and Pakistan are in such close contact in many fields, the trade volume between the two countries is not sufficient in any terms. He also added that the bilateral trade between Turkey and Pakistan, which is just over $500 million, is not really enough. So as I said, there is apparently there is still too much way to go.
Mm-hmm. And what other regional issues do you think were under discussion between Pakistan and Turkey, considering our close relations with Saudi Arabia and the newfound friendship with Donald Trump today?
Yeah, this is the issue. Actually, this was also the topic of another high-level meeting between Pakistani Foreign Minister Shah Mahmoud Qureshi and his Turkish counterpart Mevlut Çavuşoğlu in Ankara. In this meeting, the foreign ministers of the two countries have reaffirmed their commitment to continue joint efforts for a peaceful resolution in the Afghan issue. And Qureshi briefed the Turkish foreign minister about his satisfaction regarding the cooperation of the two countries on important regional and international issues, including Kashmir and Afghanistan. Turkish foreign minister also said Pakistan has a central role to play in peace and stability in Afghanistan, and Turkey acknowledged the effort of Pakistan. These are the main topics in the meeting that I can say to you.
Okay. Also tell us, President Erdogan was quite fond of former Premier Nawaz Sharif, who the current Prime Minister deemed the root of corruption in the past tenure. Will the change of leadership bring a change in Turkey's stance toward Pakistan?
Yes. Erdogan's ties with the Sharif family were very, very strong and very close. Sharif was even a witness at Erdogan's daughter's wedding, as we all know. So according to some experts, the Turkish leadership was quite suspicious about how to deal with Imran's Pakistan. But after a few weeks of Imran taking the power, President Erdogan announced that a new era is on the way for the two countries. So we should also be very optimistic about this new era. So we should trust that strong historical ties between the two countries.
Mr. Mustafa, it's reassuring to see that the sister country Turkey also shares the same optimism we feel in Pakistan between the relations of the two countries. And thank you for being with us. It was a pleasure to have you on the show. Well, now we'll take a short break. For more, keep watching Beyond the News. Welcome back. Chief Justice of Pakistan, Mia Saqib Nisar, yesterday stated that although the 18th Amendment to the Constitution was laudable, however, Parliament did not debate its provisions before passing it. Now, the Chief Justice made these remarks while hearing a case regarding a controversy between the federal and Sindh governments over the ownership of the three major hospitals in Karachi. And the CJP in it observed that Parliament was the supreme body that drafted laws and then amended them. However, he added that it needed to be debated before passing these laws. Moreover, the Sindh government had earlier approached the Supreme Court with its claim regarding the subject of health, which has been devolved to the provinces under the 18th Amendment. And therefore, the management of the three hospitals, namely the Jinnah Postgraduate Medical College, National Institute of Cardiovascular Disease and the National Institute of Child Health, should rest with the Sindh rather than the federal government. However, a 5-judge bench headed by Chief Justice Saqib Nisar took up the set of appeals by the Sindh government against the Federation and declared that these institutions fell within the scope of the entry 16 of the federal legislative list and therefore within the exclusive federal domain. Consequently, the CJP Nisar also asked the council to cite any bar which stopped the federal government from establishing such institutions related to the health sector in any province in its verdict. On the other hand, Mia Raza Rabbani, former Senate chairman who had represented the Sindh government before and the Apex Court, stated that it was the constitutional wrong because of the federal government had perpetuated to usurp these three institutions from the province under the 18th Amendment. And therefore, the Federation has no right over the health sector of the province. Meanwhile, President of Pakistan, Dr. Arif Alvi, has stated that there is no threat to the 18th Constitutional Amendment apart from improving the law. He has further stated that the purpose of the 18th Amendment was to give autonomy to the provinces so that they could perform better and increase their capacities. And if there is something missing, it could be improvised. Now, the President was making these claims in a response to allay the fears of the PPP's claims regarding Sindh for not being given its right as per the 18th Amendment. To further discuss the issue, we are now joined by renowned journalist Mr. Mazhar Abbas. Mr. Abbas, welcome to Beyond the News, sir.
Thank you.
So tell us, how do you see the verdict of the 5-judge Supreme Court bench yesterday, headed by Chief Justice Nisar himself, on the Sindh government?
Well, the judgment of, after all, the 5-member judgment, and Sindh government still can go for a review because Sindh government has its own apprehensions about the intervention of the federal government into provincial matters. And what happened yesterday, perhaps what Raza Rabbani had missed, I believe, that the amendment was carried out unanimously by the all-party committee. You know, I've been following that during all the 9 months which all the parties debated this within the committee, not inside the parliament. And perhaps there had been some oversight, and government might have the then government might have missed that opportunity of debating it in the National Assembly. But none of the political parties has ever raised this issue before, that this amendment should have been debated. Maybe because everyone had approved this amendment, every party was on board when this amendment was carried and were part of the committee. And I believe for the first time I had seen any committee which observed so much secrecy in debating. And one of the reasons why the secrecy was maintained is because there were apprehension that any news, if they leak the news or the amendment, it may generate a debate. So I think, in a way, the amendment was carried unanimously and approved and signed by all the parties, and that is one of the reasons why it was never come up for a debate, detailed debate in the National Assembly. And no party, even after the amendment was carried, no party ever raised that it should have been debated.
So therefore,
Mr.
Abbas,
Yeah.
Mr. Abbas, this Chief Justice is then right to say that the 18th Amendment required more debate before being drafted, and now when it's there, it doesn't make sense to repeal it.
No, it should not be repealed, and secondly, should have been debated is a matter of discussion. But then, has any party raised the objection that it should have been debated? No party. So if the entire Parliament is of the unanimous view about the amendment, and they raised no objection because they were on board when the amendment was discussed in the committee. So even today you can debate. Even today you can reopen the debate, but there had always a chance of generating controversies between the federation and the provinces. And I believe it's a particular issue regarding the health, the Jinnah Hospital and the federal government interventions into Jinnah Hospital. But the point is that after this amendment was carried, whether the Jinnah Hospital was looked better by the provincial government or the conditions of the hospital has gone deteriorated. We have been raising this issue that even after the amendment was carried and provincial and federal subjects were transferred to the provinces, the performance of different provinces never been discussed in detail either by the media or even in the assemblies, because now the provinces have you see how many ministries? I mean, local government ministries, law and order is provincial subject, education is provincial subject, information is provincial subject. So every major ministries are with the provinces. So so instead of attacking the federation, it is very important that the assemblies should discuss that after the amendment, the performance of the provinces were up to the mark since the amendment was carried or not.
You're absolutely right. The performance should be evaluated. However, sir, the PPP is claiming that the federal government is interfering in their domain. How do you see this?
Yes, I mean, for instance, there has always been a problem between the federation and the provinces, particularly in regard to Sindh and Balochistan in particular. And in the past, when PMLN government was at the center, there had been conflicts between the center and Sindh province in particular. When PP was in power in the center, there was a problem between the center and Punjab. And at times, even the provincial chief minister refused to receive the prime minister. So it's all part of our history in the past. So this apprehension of the Sindh government that federal government is unnecessarily interfering because of the conflict between PTI and People's Party at the moment. And although the federal government said that they will only go after the developments which come under federal subjects and which come under the federal legislative assembly, but still there should have been a better coordination between the center and the province and in Karachi's case with the KMC. Mm-hmm. And in the past, Karachi always suffered because of the tripartite conflicts between center and province and between province and KMC. So I think if the Prime Minister intervene in this matter And instead of political point scoring, he should formulate a committee comprising federal government representatives, provincial government, and the KMC in case of Karachi's development.
Mr. Abbas, Karachi is still suffering on a daily basis. However, what I need to ask you is there really a grey area regarding who actually controls public sectors of health and education? Why is there no consensus between the centre and the provinces after so many years of approving the 18th Amendment? Should we now have like a mechanism in which we know which portfolios are for the federal government and which fall under the domain of the provinces?
You see, the provincial subject in the past had been one of the main issues, and unfortunately, had this issue been resolved some 40, 50 years back, I believe that today we won't be able to see what we had seen in 1971. And one of the reasons why Bangladesh was created was the control of the federation and not giving enough autonomy to the provinces. Even in the 71s, that was one of the major demands of the then Awami League to give maximum provincial autonomy. Now, as far as the 18th Amendment comes, I believe education is the grey area, perhaps not the health. And one of the reasons being there is a fear perhaps in the establishment or in the federation that some of the provinces, particularly Balochistan and Sindh, might include in curriculum subjects which according to their own thinking, might hurt the national interest in inverted commas. And that is perhaps the gray area. Education, I believe, they certainly want that at least the curriculum should be under the centralized power, and which may, I think, if PTI government tried, I think it will create a lot of mistrust and distrust between the center and the provinces. So I think Prime Minister should take key interest in this major issue, and he should call all the provincial chief ministers to discuss if there is some apprehension from the federation, and they must look into the grievances and concerns of the provinces, because without the provinces you cannot have a strong federation.
Absolutely, sir. And although President Arif Alvi clarified that there is no threat to the 18th Constitutional Amendment, however, his comments seem quite contradictory to PTI government's policies and promises. How do you judge his statements, sir?
I also believe that there is no serious threat to 18th Amendment because of the two reasons. One, the PTI government, either in the National Assembly, they are in the opposition in the in the Senate, and they are not in absolute majority in the National Assembly as well. So they can come out with amendments if they believe. I think even the PTI government so far has not been able to address this issue within the cabinet or within the parliamentary committee. So I believe there are few ministers who here and there raising this issue. They want certain amendments, certain changes in the 18th Amendment. But I believe as a party, so far neither the party spokesman nor the Prime Minister has hinted towards changes in the 18th Amendment. So I don't think the 18th Amendment at a larger scale has any threat. And I believe that it may not be easy, and certainly will not be easy for the Federation to bring such an amendment which can create distrust among the provinces, include among the allies of the PTI government.
Okay, sir, and my last question to you. How can the PTI government allay fears of provinces pertaining to the 18th Amendment, in your opinion, as you just said, because they don't have the majority in the Senate nor in the Parliament? So why is there so much fear, and what can the PTI government do to allay these fears?
They should come out categorically. They don't want to repeal 18th Amendment. If they have certain suggestions to make, they can come out openly, publicly, either through a press conference or through a statement in the Parliament, either by the Prime Minister or his senior minister, can come out with a statement that there is no agenda among the PTI government to repeal this 18th Amendment. So these are all misconceptions. So far, there has not been any categorical denial or categorical position taken by the PTI government that they don't want to repeal 18th Amendment. That is giving opportunity, or that is giving PJ opposition an opportunity to raise this issue, to create this controversy. The PTI government, it is better if the PTI government or the Prime Minister should come out categorically.
Thank you, Mr. Abbas, for being with us. It was a pleasure to have you on the show, sir. Well, now it's time for a short break. For more, keep watching Beyond the News. Welcome back. The Foreign Office of Pakistan has welcomed the recent remarks made by US President Donald Trump regarding resetting ties with Pakistan and his desire of meeting the new Pakistani leadership in the near future. Now, these remarks were made by the Pakistani Foreign Office spokesperson Dr. Mohammad Faisal, who has stated that Pakistan looks forward to having a positive engagement with the US for the mutual benefit of both countries. Moreover, although President Donald Trump repeated the allegations of Pakistan being duplicitous in its dealings with the US, he nevertheless expressed his desire for better ties with Islamabad, and thus seems that Pakistan's government is now keenly waiting to have direct engagement at the highest level with him. This is interesting because Mr. Trump has repeated the allegations of Pakistan betraying the US in Afghanistan and has also accused Islamabad of housing the enemy in the country in the past. Therefore, this comes as a major shock to many around the world when he expressed yesterday about his desire to meet the Pakistani leadership, and has caught many people by surprise. Furthermore, these recent statements now suggest that the trust deficit between the two countries still exists. However, it's reducing because both Pakistan and the US need each other to solve the existing Afghanistan challenge that has caused massive losses not just to Afghanistan alone, but to the entire region, including the US economy. Hence, it was last year due to these factors that Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo called for a bilateral reset in the Pak-US relations, as many observers felt that the current US relationship with Pakistan was too Afghan-centric. However, after that meeting, bilateral relations between the two countries have been on a downward trend ever since President Trump assumed office. Since almost immediately after assuming office, he had blamed Pakistan for the US military's failure in Afghanistan while fighting the Taliban, and has also been consistent in his criticism of Pakistan. To talk more on this developing story, we are now joined by renowned political analyst and academic on international affairs who has just recently been inducted to the Prime Minister's Advisory Council on Foreign Affairs, Dr. Huma Bakai. Ms. Bakai, welcome to Beyond the News.
Thank you.
So first, Trump bashed and then he signals to meet. We saw the same carrot and stick approach with North Korea earlier. However, despite the optics, little has changed in the Korean Peninsula. Do you think that we would have a similar episode, or will this newfound love for Pakistan actually reset ties with the US?
I think it is premature to say that this is going to be a resetting of ties. I think this convergence is largely interest-based, and it is based on the reports of two think tanks in the United States that published an article which advised President Trump to look at a more multilateral approach to resolving the Afghan conflict, and which included involving countries like Pakistan, Russia, India, and also perhaps China. So I think what essentially President Trump has done is that he's factored in the advice of these think tanks into the policy statement that he made on Afghanistan more recently. And at the end of the day, if you look at it historically, if you take an audit of our interactions with the United States, this is how they move further. So there is public humiliation, it's almost used as a tool of diplomacy, and then there is some damage control and the realization that exit from Afghanistan or attainment of peace in Afghanistan is not possible without Pakistan's positive engagement. So I think that realization has also dawned on President Trump, and thus this tweet where he shows a desire to meet with the top leadership of Pakistan, which has been responded positively. United States at best has shown some flexibility, and Pakistan has responded to that. But at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of tightrope walking that has to be done. We've seen our foreign minister doing very proactive diplomatic footwork to address the situation. But I think the major shift here, when we look at the situation in Afghanistan, is that we're looking at multilateralism, we are looking at regional options, and we are looking at involving all the stakeholders and probably taking in the fact that the ground reality is that Taliban are a reality in Afghanistan, and if peace is to be acquired, they need to be factored in. So essentially, that's how I see it.
Ms. Bukai, what do you make of the recent comments made by the president regarding Pakistan? Were they surprising to some extent to you?
It was surprising because 3 months ago, the Brookings Institute held a dialogue in which it was actually sort of predicted that very soon President Trump would be engaging with the top leadership of Pakistan. And you see, Pakistan has also drawn its red line, where Prime Minister, right at the onset of his taking up the office, had said that we'll be partners in peace and we will not be partners in conflict. And in some ways, this is a carry forward of what Prime Minister Imran Khan had said. And there's something else that I want to sort of re-emphasize here, and that is that, you see, it's not important what the United States wants. The important thing is that peace in Afghanistan is crucial to Pakistan's growth and development. And the new foreign policy construct, which has connectivity as a very important component, actually requires Pakistan to have functional relationships with both its neighbors on the eastern and western borders. So a lot of what we are doing is an extension of what is needed by Pakistan, rather than what United States is asking us to do. Yes, there is convergence because a lot of think tanks now are saying that an honorable exit for United States from Afghanistan is only possible with Pakistan support. In fact, the Brookings Institute actually came out and said that the key to it is with Imran Khan. So I think that is what has compelled President Trump to tone down his rhetoric about Pakistan and offer an engagement.
Okay, Ms. Bukai, let's talk about Pakistan's response so far. How do you see Pakistan's Foreign Office's latest remarks of welcoming talks with the US? Should we happily join the Trump bandwagon after his unsubstantiated allegations, or should we observe caution as this could be a trick?
Join the talks and be cautious. Nobody is preventing us from doing that. We have drawn our red lines. We have the Bajwa doctrine in place. We have the Prime Minister's statement that was recently made. So I don't understand why this should be a zero-sum game. If they have offered us engagement, we can reciprocate. We can also be cautious at the same time, and we can continue to observe our red lines, and which is that we are partners in peace. But we keep our interests in front of us, and then we move on.
Ms. Bukai, there's a lot of mistrust between the US and Pakistan, and no one would deny that. So how can both the countries overcome the mistrust that exists currently between them, given the fact that they have committed towards a bilateral reset earlier?
The mistrust is not something new. That is how we have a tortured relationship, so to say. So we have we've swung from being the most sanctioned ally to a non-NATO ally to a frontline ally. We've all had all those status with the United States. And the facts of the matter is that the strategic geography of Pakistan compels international community, including the United States of America, to engage Pakistan for regional progress. And that's how it is sort of working out. So what has happened is, because the fulcrum of power is shifting from the west to the east, and China is emerging as a power, and Pakistan is a close ally of China, this is a realignment of relationships that is happening. But just not, we have progressed from where we only had zero-sum situations in foreign policy. The Cold War is over. You can have parallel relationships with competing superpowers, because we are not a superpower. Our relationship is dependent on taking forward our interests in the international arena. And for that, engage in Washington, be that it, or we engage with Beijing. That's
Ms.
how
Bagai, don't you think there's a new Cold War emerging between the US and China on the economic front? And as you rightly mentioned, Pakistan is aligned itself with China, and the US is not happy about it. And India is on China, and India is on the US side. So how does that all add up? And if I may give you a follow-up question on that, the role of many regional countries is usually discounted for when we talk about having peace in Afghanistan. Will Iran, China and Russia accept any American proposal undermining their influence in the region?
Well, you see, if you say that there is a Cold War unfolding here in South Asia, I only see a competition between a superpower and an emerging power. And we live in an era where geopolitics and geoeconomics will perhaps run parallel to each other. So yes, China and US are in competition with each other, but they're also the largest trading partners. And the economic convergence is immense, and so is the economic convergence that exists between Beijing and New Delhi. Although New Delhi is being put up in the region as to counter China, so all of that is there, and it's running parallel. What was your other question, please?
Oh, I'll move on. Since you mentioned New Delhi now, don't you believe that Pakistan should convey its concerns to the US regarding India's emerging role in Afghanistan and ask them to address this return for any help bringing stability in Afghanistan?
I think we've already done that, not just to the Washington, but to the entire international community. We've told them time and again that we have tangible evidence of the Afghan soil being used against us. And on our side, we've improved our border monitoring mechanisms, including building up of fence. So I think Pakistan is doing some very proactive diplomatic footwork, which should go in favor of showcasing Pakistan in the positive light in the international community. And I think that is what has propelled the United States to come back to Pakistan for acquiring peace in Afghanistan. And you see, the biggest reality of perhaps 2019 is that all the countries, including the United States of America, has acknowledged that Taliban are a political reality in Afghanistan. And you also need to look at the fact that, you see, the Russians were already talking to the Taliban. The Chinese were already talking to the Taliban. The Iranians were also engaged with them. Pakistan always has been a part of the construct. There is realization, even in India, that the dynamics on the ground are changing. The reports that have come out from the United States itself acknowledge the fact that perhaps 70% of Afghanistan is not in the control of the Afghan government. That is a major concern, essentially meaning that if you want peace and security in Afghanistan, you need to move forward towards a political solution, because the 17-year-old conflict now has to come to an end, and all conflicts end on a negotiating table. And then when you go to the negotiating table, you talk to the real stakeholders. You like it or not, a real stakeholder in this conflict are the Taliban.
Yes, that's absolutely right. We need a negotiated settlement to end this 17-year-old conflict. Ms. Bagai, thank you so much for that insightful interview. Well, now it's time for a short break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Now let's take a look at the world oil market. OPEC oil supply has fallen in December by the largest amount in almost 2 years, according to a recent poll conducted by the Reuters news agency this month. It stated that the top oil exporter, Saudi Arabia, has called the first shock to kickstart a supply limiting accord with Iran and Libya, posted involuntarily declines in the global oil markets. Moreover, the 15-member OPEC group just last month had pumped 32.68 million barrels per day. And according to the survey, this was found to be down by almost 460,000 barrels per day, hence causing the largest month-on-month drop since January 2017 last year. Furthermore, the survey suggests that Saudi Arabia and some of its allies are now acting unilaterally to bolster their market shares as crude prices slide on the possibility of a new glut, and hence formal accords by OPEC and its allies to cut supply for 2019 took effect so early this year. Meanwhile, oil has slid to $56 a barrel from 4-year high of $86 back in October on the signs of excess supply. However, OPEC has not ruled out any further action because the cartel now expects that the crude prices would naturally rise since the output declines have already started coming into effect, causing global oil markets to raise again in the near future. Well, that's all we have for you tonight. Join us again as we take you beyond the news.